The grand piano gleamed under the golden light of the chandelier, its ivory keys untouched, waiting, almost daring, someone to play it. The air in the millionaire's mansion was thick with quiet pride and unspoken judgment. Standing near the corner was a small, thin boy, barefoot, nervous, and clutching the hem of his faded shirt. His name was Eli, and his dark brown eyes held more pain than any 12-year-old should ever know. Across the room, Meline Rutherford, the wife of one of the wealthiest men in the city, crossed her arms and looked down her nose at him. Her diamond bracelet sparkled as she gestured toward the piano. "If you can play this piano," she said coldly, "I'll adopt you." Her words were meant to humiliate, not to offer hope. Eli stared at the grand piano as if it were a mountain too high to climb. He had never touched one in his life, only heard them through the dusty window of the community church where he sometimes slept. The orphanage director had brought him here for a charity event, saying a wealthy family might take an interest in him. He hadn't expected it to feel like this, a test, not an act of kindness. The guests chuckled softly. Some even whispered things they didn't think he could hear. "Poor thing, look at his clothes, probably doesn't even know what a piano is." Eli swallowed hard. His fingers trembled as he approached the bench. He could smell the polish, feel the eyes of the crowd burning into his back. But he wasn't thinking about them, he was thinking about his mother. She used to hum lullabies before she passed away. Her voice was the first music he ever knew. That he sat down. His hands hovered above the keys. "Go on," Meline said, with a smirk that didn't reach her eyes. "Play." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Eli pressed a single key, hesitant, soft. Another followed, and another. The notes stumbled at first, broken and uncertain. But then, something changed. His hands began to move faster, as if guided by something deep within. The melody that came out was not perfect, but it was raw, emotional, and full of soul. It carried the pain of hunger, the loneliness of nights without warmth, and the distant hope that one day someone, anyone, might truly see him. The guests grew quiet. Even Madeline's expression softened for a brief second. Her husband, Charles Rutherford, leaned forward in his chair, his jaw tight, his eyes locked on the boy. When Eli finally stopped, the last note hung in the air like a prayer. No one clapped. No one spoke. The silence was sacred. Meline cleared her throat. "Well," she said, trying to regain her composure, "it seems the boy can play, in his own way." But Charles wasn't listening to her. He stood and walked toward Eli. "Who taught you that?" he asked gently. Eli looked down. "No one, sir. I just hear things in my head. I remember how they sound." Charles blinked, stunned. "You mean you've never had lessons?" Eli shook his head. Madeline's eyes darted between them. "Charles, don't be ridiculous. He just pressed random keys." "He's not, he's gifted," Charles interrupted firmly. "Can't you hear it?" Meline opened her mouth to argue but then closed it. For the first time, she truly looked at the boy, not at his skin, not at his clothes, but at the way his fingers still hovered above the keys as if afraid to let go of the music. Still, her pride wouldn't let her show kindness. "Fine," she said coolly. "You've impressed my husband. But I don't see how that makes you adoptable." Eli's shoulders fell. His heart sank. He had done his best, and it still wasn't enough. Charles turned to his wife, his tone firm. "Meline, you were the one who said if he could play, we'd adopt him. I think it's time we keep our word." Madeline's jaw tightened. She hadn't meant it. It was supposed to be a joke, a cruel, impossible challenge. But now, in front of everyone, her husband was calling her bluff. Later that night, after the guests had left and the laughter had faded, Meline found herself alone in the music room. The piano was still there, quiet and haunting. She sat where Eli had sat and pressed a key. It didn't sound the same. The sound was hollow, lifeless. Something in her chest ached. She remembered the look on the boy's face, the way his small hands had danced across the keys like he was born to do it. For the first time in years, she felt something she hadn't felt before, shame. The next morning, Eli was supposed to be sent back to the orphanage. He sat quietly on the front steps, his small backpack beside him. But then the mansion doors opened, and Meline stepped out. "Wait," she said softly. Eli looked up, unsure. She hesitated, struggling to find the right words. "You played beautifully last night." He blinked, not sure if it was a trick. "Thank you, ma'am." "I was wrong," she admitted, her voice trembling. "About a lot of things." Charles appeared behind her, smiling faintly. "Eli, how would you feel about staying here, with us?" Eli's eyes widened. "You mean, you'll adopt me?" Meline nodded slowly. "If you'll let us." Tears welled in his eyes as he whispered, "Yes, ma'am." Months passed. The house that once echoed with cold laughter now filled with music. Eli had his own room, his own piano lessons, and more importantly, a family. Charles encouraged him to perform, while Meline, though still proud, began to soften. She would often listen to him play in the evenings, smiling quietly from the doorway. One night, she sat beside him on the bench. "Play that song again," she said softly. "The one you played the first day we met." He did. And this time, she wept. Not from guilt, but from gratitude, for the boy who had brought music, love, and redemption back into her life. By the time Eli grew up, he became one of the most celebrated pianists in the country. But whenever reporters asked him where it all began, he always smiled and said, "It started with a woman who didn't believe I could play, and ended with a mother who believed in me more than anyone else ever could." And every time he said that, somewhere deep in her heart, Meline would silently thank the boy who had taught her what true harmony really meant.